I am the father of a dropout. And what's more, I'm actually an enthusiastic father of a dropout because I made the decision. 2 weeks ago, Kyung-Soo and I decided that we would pull Noah out of the school system as it is right now. Now, part of it has to do with what school has become. And that's not anything against the teachers. But as we shut down the schools and move to online learning, we asked the teachers to do essentially the impossible. We've asked them to just mid-stride change everything that they were doing and somehow make their lesson plans available online and accessible and interactive and engaging, and try and set up back and forth communication. And that's not part of their job. That's not part of their skill set. We've asked them to do something that none of us really know how to do. And I have some sympathy for that because I'm doing exactly the same thing. Suddenly I become a script writer and a video editor and, sound engineer and all these things that I never trained to be. There's nothing against the teachers in pulling Noah out of school, but school has become an environment in which it's actually hard to learn. There's so much more to learning than simply taking some information in and filing it away for later use. In the Bible, we read both Jeremiah and Ezekiel. They ate the Word of God. And what this implies to me is that learning is much more than just taking in information, but actually we have to integrate it, assimilate it into our being. And for that to happen, there's more than just reading something on a computer screen. So what Kyung-Soo and I have decided to do over the next little while during this, as long as this shutdown lasts, is something that's much closer to apprenticeship or discipleship. So we're no longer doing the assigned schoolwork. And I've spoken to the teacher. I'm sure there's lots of kids that aren't doing the assigned schoolwork. I suspect I might be one of the few that actually reached out to the teacher and said, this is our plan. We're not going to do this anymore. But instead, what we're going to do is something much more hands-on. When Jesus wanted to form his community and teach his disciples, he didn't give them a book and tell them to write a paper. Instead, he said, follow me. And so that's what they did. They followed him. They did as he did. They spoke as he spoke. And in that way, they learned. So now this is what we're doing with Noah, with intentionality. So as Noah does, he's learning. He's learning about siphons and water pressure as we play with the garden hose. He's learning about ecology and biology as we prepare our garden beds and plant our garden. He's learning nutrition and chemistry as we cook. He's honing his language skills as he writes in his journal. He's exploring new technology as he seeks to connect with friends and family through the tablet. He's learning how to problem solve. He's learning how to handle tools as we do just our normal repairs and maintenance around the house that he now does. And one thing that I hope that he's learning is not just these life skills, but actually he's learning his place in the family. And as a culture, I found that with our kids, we tend to expect them to do their schoolwork with minimum interference from us. And in return, as parents, we cook for them, we clean for them, we take care of all their physical needs, we try and take care of all of their wants. And this relationship, it tends to be kind of a one-directional kind of thing, that as parents, we serve our children. Now, Jesus asked, and this question I come back to actually quite a bit, who is greater, the one who serves or the one who sits at the table? Now, it occurs to me that in constantly serving our kids, we're not really doing them any favors. We're not lifting them up. We're not empowering them. So love and provide? Absolutely. Coddle and pander? No, not so much. Because when we do that, we infantilize them. We basically keep them in a state of dependence and adolescence, and we kind of promote this Peter Pan syndrome, so to speak. And then we wonder why at age 30 they're still living in our basements, right? So my goal in pulling Noah out of school and instead emphasizing this more hands-on applied learning, is not just that Noah will learn life skills. Obviously, I want him to be able to cook a meal on his own and swing a hammer and grow a potato and all those kinds of things. But ultimately, I want him to discover something about himself and to discover that he's an integral part of the family. That he's not a helpless child who needs to be served, but rather a capable young person who contributes, who has something to offer himself, and who actually has an important role within the household. This is how he discovers that he belongs. And this lesson that he learns will have much wider implications because it applies to every group to which we belong. So society as a whole, our workplace, our church. In fact, I would even go so far as to say that our expectation of being served that we learn when we're young, it extends to creation itself. We've treated the world as something other that exists simply to sustain us and to satisfy our desires. But as long as we expect the world and all those groups to which we belong, as long as we expect them to serve us, we'll find that we're constantly on the margins, that we never really truly belong. If we want to belong, if we want to really belong and become a part of anything, we have to roll up our sleeves and we have to put some work into it. In contributing, in serving rather than being served, we make ourselves indispensable. And as we do that, we find that the distinction between ourselves and whatever entity that we're engaging in, whether it's a family or a group, the distinction begins to blur. Our individual identity and our group identity, it starts to become more as one. And then we begin to grasp the outlines of what Jesus was speaking about when he spoke to his disciples on that last night before his arrest. And he said, I am in the Father, and you are in me, and I am in you. And this lesson applies to all of our interactions. So in the world, at work, in our social circles, in our homes. So right now, Kyung-Soo and I are using our home as a training ground for this much broader and wider lesson. This grand sort of abstract concept of identity and right relationship and belonging and being indispensable, we're going to enact that over and over and over again in the kitchen, in the garden, in the laundry room, at the dinner table. September will come soon enough. And when that comes, we'll see a return of something close to normal, whatever that may be. And in a lot of ways, the world will revert to what it had been previously. Kids will be back in school. Much of our present turmoil will be fading into memory. And when that happens, I would like Noah to be able to look back on this shutdown, not as a period of restriction and enforced schedule and being yelled at to get his schoolwork done, but rather as a time of growth and new opportunity, a time in which he discovers his place and his purpose. And through this, he gains the confidence to go out and engage with the world. It's a different kind of learning for a different kind of world. And ideally, this sort of weird liminal transitional time that we're in will be a time in which the world changes for the better. And I can't control the world, but this action of pulling Noah out of school and trying to integrate him more deeply into the family and give him that identity, this is the way in which I hope that if I can't change the world for the better, perhaps I can change Noah's world for the better.